Hanavi and Elisha Hanavi, and the stories of the Jewish people in the desert. And I was fascinated. And I developed, through my grandfather, a tremendous relationship with Hashem. I felt like Hashem was my father in a way. I could always turn to him. I could always look at him for help. Let me tell you a few stories from my childhood where actually I really felt the presence of Hashem, and I felt like Hashem was directly answering my tefillot. One time I was a young boy, and I was traveling, I was walking through a field, kind of wandering around, and all of a sudden, I saw a wolf. I was terrified. Everyone knows that wolves are extremely dangerous. And I started to run, and the wolf was chasing me. He wasn't so close at first, but as I ran, he got closer and closer. And I saw up ahead a churva, an abandoned building that was very old. And I was always told, never go into the churva. It's very dangerous there too. But what could I do? I had to escape. And I ran into the churva in the front door, and the wolf was coming in the back door. And I said, Hashem, Hashem, you have to help me. And I ran through the back door, and as I said it, the building collapsed, trapping the wolf inside. And I was saved. I couldn't believe it. A few years later, I was walking through the forest, and wouldn't you know it, another wild animal, a lion, approached me. And I was terrified again. How can I survive an attack from a lion? And I remembered the story of David and Goliath, and I took from my pocket my slingshot, and I only had one shot, and I shot the lion and wounded him enough just to scare him off, and I was able to run home, back to my grandfather. And again, I felt like Hashem was guiding me and directing me and answering my tefillot. And you'll never believe the next story. I was walking along the riverbed, and I fell into a well. Isn't that crazy? I fell into a well, and in the well were snakes. I hate snakes, and they're very dangerous. And I prayed to Hashem, Hashem, save me from the snake. I didn't see any way to escape. And all of a sudden, I hadn't seen it before, there was a branch. And I grabbed the branch, and I was able to scurry up the inside of the well, and I was able to escape from the snake. And I felt, Hashem must be guiding me. Hashem listens to my tefillot. I'm so connected to Hashem. I have to be honest, I felt pretty special. And I would tell these stories to other people, and people believed them, and they felt that was special too. There was something about me, I don't know exactly what it was, but I guess it was my connection to Hashem. And one time, as I was older already, I was a young man, and the people were suffering because there was a famine. And I have to tell you, I had a pretty easy life. Meaning, I know I had these crazy stories, but because I felt Hashem protected me all the time, things were good, and my relationship with Hashem was secure. And I'll tell you about the famine in a second, but the truth is, there was something that was always bothering me. I used to read through the Tanakh and read through Sefer Tehillim, which is a great way for me to express my love of Hashem and my relationship with Him. And there was one pasuk that always bugged me. Shir ha'ma'alot b'shuv Hashem eshivat Zion hayinu k'chomim. The Jewish people, it was saying, when they came back from exile, the exile of Babel, a 70-year exile, they were like dreamers. And I said to myself, dreamers? You can't dream for 70 years. I know it sounds like a simple question, but that question really was gnawing at me. And probably was gnawing at me in a more symbolic way, but it really bothered me. What does that pasuk really mean? We were dreamers for 70 years? I don't know. Anyhow, back to the famine story. So there's a famine. And the people came to me and they said, Choni, we have no other option. We need you to ask for rain. You need to daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for rain on our behalf. And I said, no problem. And I have to admit, I was pretty bold. And I drew a circle in the ground. That's where my name comes from, by the way. Choni HaMa'agel. He makes circles. I stood in the circle and I demanded from Hashem that He bring rain for the Jewish people. And you know what happened? Hashem responded. First a small bit of rain, then a lot of rain. But I said, no, Hashem, I don't want a lot of rain like that in a way that's dangerous. I want a proper amount of rain. And He listened to me again. And everyone was duly impressed. Except for one person. There was one man, a leader, named Shimon ben Shetach. He wasn't very happy at all. He felt what I did was a little bit stepping over the line, if you will. He felt I was maybe demanding too much from Hashem. I wasn't sure. Anyhow, I'll tell you one more story. One time I was an older man, probably about 40, 50 years old. I was walking along, and I was in a field, and I see this young man planting a tree. And I said, sir, what kind of tree are you planting? He said, I'm planting a carob tree. I said, a carob tree? Why are you planting a carob tree? How long does it take for the carob tree to bear fruit? He says, approximately 70 years. 70 years? You're not you're young, you're not that young. You're not going to be able to see this tree bear fruit. Why would you waste your time with planting a carob tree? And he said, well, all the other carob trees we have, who do you think planted those? My grandfather or my great-grandfather. So I'm going to plant a tree now for my grandchildren. I thought that was a pretty interesting answer. And I walked along, and I was feeling tired, and I lay down. And you know what must have happened? I fell asleep into a very, very deep sleep. And I kept sleeping and sleeping. And I woke up, and I saw right where I'd been a moment before, maybe a couple hours before, where there had been nothing. All of a sudden was a huge carob tree. And I asked this young man who was by the carob tree, I said, sir, are you the one who planted this carob tree? He said, no, I didn't plant that carob tree. I said, who planted the carob tree? He said, my grandfather planted the carob tree. As they say, Nafali ha-simon, I suddenly realized I had been sleeping for 70 years. 70 years I've been sleeping. And I realized in that moment exactly what that pasuk meant. Hayinu kechomim. Hayinu kechomim means we were dreamers. The idea of dreaming is the idea of not relying on miracles from Hashem. That's not what dreamers do. The man who planted the carob tree wasn't relying on an outright miracle. Of course, he believed in Hashem and he felt the presence of Hashem in his life and he trusted in Hashem, but he also trusted in his own actions. And if you combine trusting in your own actions with faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then in fact, that's a fulfillment of a dream. Because then his children, his grandchildren, were able to benefit from what he planted. But the truth is, I have to be honest with you. My name's not really Chomi. After all, this is the year 2020. I just told you a story that happened in the time of the Tanaim, about 1,800 years ago. But my name is Bnei Yisrael. The truth is that Bnei Yisrael also had interesting experiences. They experienced miracles, and they've been raised on stories. And they also had experiences with a wolf, and a lion, and a snake, in the form of their enemies. And they were saved. And you know, I think they also had an experience where maybe they had to draw a line, draw a circle in the ground. Perhaps that was the Chalutzim, the early pioneers who went to Eretz Yisrael and demanded, as it were, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that he help them turn the